photos. A couple of years ago, when we decided to integrate photo upload to the site, we already had a number of competitors, if you will. So from photos, we actually went to games. From photos, we actually went at our first developer event, F8. And F8 has become this milestone for us to actually launch products that little by little start making the technology companies, but I never saw one single product launch shift the whole industry as the Open Graph did. The fact that with one launch, we were actually now able to semantically add an intelligence layer on top of any URL on the web. A news article, a video, a song. And so what we tried to think about was how to extend that, how to actually make it easier for you to discover content was being shared, but actually also to appropriately designate the content you were interacting with. And as we channels to make it more relevant to the user, to try and actually limit some of the spam that was happening on the platform. About a year ago, he was looking into a gaming company that was doing pretty well on top of the platform. And I asked him why they hadn't invested in this content. There's a reason why Jens is on stage here from Muga. Muga is my favorite story of somebody proving that VC wrong. They launched after we had killed virality. And they specifically focused. And a guy that actually set up a shop in Berlin and brought in people from around the world, Australia, Czech Republic, Sweden, to that place in Berlin, and from Berlin is actually going out to the world. My other great example is King.com. King.com has been around for a while. They were one of the leading casual gaming companies, utilizing his casual games. He's been launching experiences on top of Facebook that are specifically social. And he's actually now the 4th largest partner on top of Facebook that builds social games and focus on specific geographies. They have 8 million monthly active users. And that's actually has 3 guys in Serbia. And Serbia is not exactly the country you think about as the hub of technology innovation in Europe. But Branko, who's the founder and CEO, had worked at Microsoft in Europe, actually went back home, and he decided to actually go create. Now, 60 days ago, last F8, we once again pushed the envelope a bit more around the evolution of social. The way in which you'll now be able to add this time dimension to your experiences. You'll be able to add content from before you were actually on Facebook. 190 friends on average. 84% of users are actually inside the same country, so it's actually quite dense at a geographic level. And actually even a higher density within the same city. So this is actually really a digital reflection of the real world graph, of your real relationships. We pretty much map in age to the internet in almost every country that we're in. So we're no longer a network of teenagers and college students, as many people still believe. We're more likely a young professional sitting at his desk checking his Facebook status. The second graph we have is the object graph. Millions and millions and millions of objects, URLs, pictures, events that have been posted and shared on Facebook. And we have an association between those 2 graphs that I call the interest graph. The fact that you liked a picture, or that you're attending an event, or that you actually shared a video. What we've done is expanded that interest graph to have a new lexicon that actually goes beyond like, but actually has global actions, verbs that we ourselves have actually launched globally. So play, listen, watch, read. Things that apply mainly to media consumption. But more interestingly, actually opened up the platform so you can create any verb that's relevant to your service. So if I'm talking to an e-commerce site, or let's say a luxury site, Carl, that launched yesterday, when you look at that red dress from Karl Lagerfeld, you don't like the red dress, you lust it, you want it, you bought it, you owned it, you dressed it, you wore it. When you actually go to a recipe application, you didn't like the recipe, you actually cooked it, or tried it, or hated it, or loved it. And the cool part about the conversation that we're having with developers and partners is the way they're trying to now emotionally drive attachment, but then actually also drive discovery of those actions. So how it all comes together is the open graph, the new lexicon of verbs, and timeline allows you to actually share and consume media content in different ways. One example is Netflix. And rather than me talking about it, I actually want to invite Axel, the CEO of Deezer, on stage to actually...
Your music was played, I guess. So, the first thing is, I will talk later on about the recruitment, but before talking about the recruitment, we improve the user experience of the current users. Suddenly, much before the September 22nd launch of the F8 with the new integration with Facebook, we were using definitely the Facebook Connect, and definitely it was very contributing to our site. But suddenly, today the music is mainly focused in a lot of countries outside of the US, 90%. And when you're looking at the Facebook users, there are 80% outside of the US. So in addition to be a recruitment tool, it's a specific advantage toward the large numerous countries. If you have a business which
partners ever since the launch at F8. To date, 1.5 billion songs have been shared via Facebook with the Open Graph integration. This is mainly US with some international partners, primarily Spotify and Deezer. Spotify has acquired 7 million new users since F8. Axel has publicly said that he's gaining about 10,000 users per day via Facebook. Dailymotion was one of our launch partners for F8 around the Open Graph. On a monthly basis, we send Dailymotion about 200 million links. That includes both videos watched on Facebook and actually people clicking through and going back to dailymotion.com. Any way you count it, that's pretty significant. On the news side, we actually launched with a number of news partners. In Europe, we launched with The Independent and The Guardian in the UK, Washington Post, Yahoo News in the US. The Guardian took a big gamble, and what they decided to do was actually cannibalize all the traffic from Facebook to The Guardian and redirect it to an application on Facebook. Rather than actually using us as an acquisition medium for their site, they decided to actually create a social experience that lives and exists only on Facebook. So every time you see an article from The Guardian on Facebook and you click on it, it will actually redirect you back to an application. That application has now been installed by 4 million users in 60 days. About 3.5 million users actually use it actively on a monthly basis. To put it in context, their website, guardian.co.uk, has a 60 million uniques according to Comscore. So we've very quickly become a significant percentage of their reader base. And the more interesting part is actually who the readers are. They're seeing an incremental 1 million reads of their articles, mainly from people below 24, which have traditionally been a kind of harder demographic for news. If you're 24 years old, you probably get your news through like your Twitter feed and your Facebook news feed. And The Guardian is actually using a Facebook application to tap into drive incremental distribution for our partners. That is a metric that we measure our success on as a platform partnerships organization. Second question might be, how the heck do I actually figure out how to build this stuff? Well, the answer is twofold. One, tomorrow morning we have 4 hours worth of sessions in one of the rooms in the other building. 1 hour on Facebook for marketers, how to actually leverage the Facebook community to actually launch and maintain